My name is Megan Mayer, and I'm going to be talking to you about lifestyle disease and risk reduction. Before we dive in, I want you to pause and think for a moment about your own daily habits. How many hours of sleep did you get last night? When was the last time you had a meal made of mostly unprocessed foods? And here's a big one: how much time do you spend sitting compared to moving each day? The answers to these simple questions might tell us more about our long term health than any lab test could. And here's why this matters. Did you know that up to 70% of doctors' visits are now linked to preventable lifestyle factors? Imagine if 7 out of every 10 people that you know could avoid their next doctor's visit just by changing a few daily habits. In addition, nearly 9 out of 10 deaths in the US are currently being linked to chronic diseases, and most of those are strongly connected to lifestyle factors. This means that our choices, how we eat, move, rest, and even manage our stress, are some of the most powerful medicines we have. My goal is that by the end of this presentation, you will be able to define lifestyle diseases and explain how they impact our health, identify both modifiable and non modifiable risk factors, apply prevention strategies that address the mind, the body, and the spirit, recognize common barriers to healthy living and explore ways to overcome them, and lastly, we'll be looking at a real life scenario and connect some of the risk factors and prevention strategies to it. Now that we have a small understanding of how big of an impact our daily choices have on health, let's take a closer look at what we mean when we say lifestyle diseases. I want to start by asking, when you hear the term lifestyle disease, which condition comes to mind first? Lifestyle diseases are those primarily resulting from sedentary lifestyle, unhealthy dietary choices, and rising stress levels on individuals and communities. Despite advancements in medical science improving management, the scale of these conditions remains really concerning. These conditions contribute substantially to mortality, morbidity, and economic strain worldwide. Lifestyle medicine is what advocates for the comprehensive strategies that involve public health policies, education, and community engagement. Overcoming these diseases and challenges through lifestyle modifications at the individual, societal, and policy levels can help alleviate the burden on healthcare systems and enhance public health. Let's take a look at some common lifestyle-related diseases. These include diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and even mental health conditions. Each of these is strongly influenced by factors like diet, physical activity, stress, and daily habits. And by highlighting them here, we can see how lifestyle choices play a major role in both physical and mental health outcomes. Obesity is one of the most common lifestyle-related conditions, and it plays a major role in the development of other chronic diseases. It's often defined as abnormal or excess fat accumulation that can cause harm for your health, usually resulting from an energy imbalance of eating more calories than the body can use. And while genetics and biological factors play a role, obesity is also heavily influenced by lifestyle and environment, such as low levels of physical activity, cultural eating habits, and chronic overeating. What makes obesity particularly concerning is that it doesn't just exist on its own. It worsens pre existing health issues and it increases the risk for new ones. In fact, research shows it can affect nearly every organ in our system, including the cardiovascular, endocrine, central nervous, and gastrointestinal systems. Diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes, happens when the body can't use insulin properly, so sugar builds up in the blood. Normally, insulin helps sugar move from the bloodstream into the cells so we can use it as energy. But in type 2 diabetes, the cells in the muscles, the fat, and the liver become resistant to insulin, and the pancreas can't produce enough to keep up. Over time, this high blood sugar can damage organs like the eyes, the kidneys, the nerves, and the heart. Major factors include being overweight and not getting enough physical activity. The good news is that lifestyle changes like healthy eating, regular exercise, and maintaining a healthy weight can help manage or even prevent type 2 diabetes despite some genetic factors. Cardiovascular disease is an umbrella term that covers many heart and blood vessel conditions, including heart disease, heart attack, stroke, heart failure, and arrhythmias. What's important to know is that how we live today strongly affects our risks later in life. The plaque that builds up in our arteries can begin at a young age, and over time, that can lead to narrowing and blockages of our blood vessels, which can cause these heart health conditions. Major risk factors include high blood pressure, smoking, obesity, diabetes, lack of physical activity, an unhealthy diet, and excess alcohol use. When more than one of these factors is present, the risk multiplies rather than just adds up, which makes prevention especially important. Hypertension, or high blood pressure, is defined as consistently having a blood pressure above 130 and over 80 millimeters of mercury. It develops gradually over time when the arteries become stiffer and narrower, forcing the heart to pump harder to push blood through. This increases the strain, damages the vessels, and significantly raises the risk for heart disease, stroke, and kidney problems. Risk factors include being obese, lack of physical activity, high sodium or processed food intake, stress, smoking, and genetic predisposition. Hypertension is often called the silent killer because it rarely causes symptoms until serious complications develop. Exercise plays a huge role in maintaining or managing hypertension. While blood pressure does rise temporarily during exercise, long-term exercise has been shown to lower both systolic and diastolic pressure by about 10 points. People with stage 1 and 2 hypertension. For those with stage 3 hypertension, medication is typically necessary, but exercise can still play a role in lowering overall cardiovascular risk. Mental health refers to a state of well-being in which a person can realize their abilities, cope with normal stress, work productively, and contribute to their community. It's not just the absence of a mental illness, it's the overall psychological and emotional wellness. Lifestyle factors play a key role in supporting our mental health. Healthy habits such as getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, exercising regularly, managing stress, maintaining social connections, and practicing self care help the brain and the body function at its best. And while these habits don't eliminate all risk of certain lifestyle diseases, because we have genetics and trauma and medical conditions that also contribute, they build a resilience and act as protective factors. Research shows that positive lifestyle behaviors can help prevent and manage long-term mental health conditions, including anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, and psychotic disorders. Essentially, the choices we make every day can strengthen our mental well being just as they do our physical health. Now that we know a few of the common lifestyle diseases, let's take a step back and look at how they affect the global picture. Lifestyle diseases aren't just personal health issues, they're among the biggest threats to public health worldwide. Diabetes currently affects about 463 million adults, and that number is projected to climb to 700 million by 2045. Beyond the personal toll, diabetes also drives other conditions like cardiovascular disease and kidney failure, and it costs the world around 760 billion every year. Cardiovascular disease is the number one killer globally. It claims nearly 17.9 million lives annually, and by 2030, the economic burden is expected to exceed by 1 trillion per year. Obesity is another major challenge. In 2022, 1 in 8 adults were obese, and more than 2.5 billion people were overweight. By 2035, nearly 3 billion are expected to fall into this category. Even more concerning is that childhood obesity has surged, with 37 million children under the age of 5 and 390 million aged 5 to 19 affected. And the estimated cost of impact is close to 2 trillion annually. And finally, mental health disorders. Depression affects about 264 million people, and anxiety disorders 284 million. And those are just the people that get diagnosed. Altogether, more than 1 billion people worldwide are living with a mental health condition. And tragically, nearly 800,000 people die by suicide every year. And the global economy loses an estimated 1 trillion annually in productivity due to mental health issues. These numbers are a big concern for us globally and personally. So let's take a look at how they even started developing into our people. They didn't appear overnight. They build slowly, often silently, over years of daily habits. A sedentary lifestyle often leads to weight gain, which can set the stage for insulin resistance and the starting point of type 2 diabetes. Poor diet, especially high in sugar and processed foods, contributes to elevated blood pressure and hypertension, and cholesterol, both of which damage the heart and blood vessels, especially for cardiovascular diseases. On top of that, chronic stress from thinking about our health and work and poor sleep can disrupt the body's hormones, which not only affects the physical health, but it also increases the risk for mental health problems. When these behaviors are repeated daily and become habits, the body accumulates damage slowly over time. This is why lifestyle diseases may not appear suddenly but instead build up over years, leading to long-term health risks. The key idea is this: small repeated behaviors accumulate over time. Just like healthy routines can build resilience, unhealthy ones can push us toward disease. Understanding how these diseases develop gives us the power to intervene earlier before serious damage occurs. Before we get into some common misconceptions, let's play a quick round of 3 truths and a lie. Take a second and think. Which one do you think is the lie? Is it that exercise benefits health beyond just weight loss? That medications alone can prevent most lifestyle diseases? that mental health is closely linked to physical health, or that small, consistent lifestyle changes can make a big difference in your health. If you guessed that medications alone can prevent most lifestyle diseases is a lie, then you would be correct. That's actually one of the most common misconceptions we'll cover today. People often hope for a quick fix instead of making a lifelong change. While the other three statements are truths. Health is about much more than appearance or extremes. And that brings us into three big misconceptions I want to break down for you. The first common misconception is that medications alone can fix lifestyle diseases. But the reality is, medications can help manage symptoms, but they can't replace exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Unlike pharmaceutical inventions that target specific pathways or risk factors, lifestyle modifications impact multiple risk factors simultaneously. Lifestyle modifications can provide much more long term benefits and are a lot cheaper. The second is that skinny means healthy. The reality of this is a person can be thin, but they can have high cholesterol, a poor diet, or unmanaged stress that really impact the health of their body. Health is more than just a body size. While thin is synonymous with healthy, and it can be true that carrying extra weight is associated with higher risk of many health problems like heart disease, it's a bit of a distortion to think that BMI alone gives us a good indicator of what health looks like. And the last misconception is that lifestyle changes have to be extreme to work. A lot of the things we see emphasize doing a big diet or a hearty exercise every single day to change up our lifestyle. But the reality is, many people won't be able to stay consistent with that. Lifestyle changes don't have to be extreme. Small, consistent changes, like taking a daily walk or swapping sugary drinks for water, can lead to really meaningful and lasting improvements that you want to get out and do during the day. Extreme changes are very hard to maintain, and they can lead to burnout. But gradual adjustments build habits that stick and support long term health. I've always found this saying to be true, that the best exercise you can do is the one that you will do. Over the course of this presentation, we've briefly mentioned risk factors. But what are risk factors? Risk factors are characteristics that are associated with developing an increased risk of particular conditions or diseases. These can be something lying within the realm of personal responsibility, something that the individual can control, or they could be something that cannot be controlled or altered at all. And we're going to be looking at these two different types of risk factors, those that are modifiable and unmodifiable. Unmodifiable risk factors are those we cannot change directly, but they still play a major role in health outcomes. These include genetics and family history, which set up the baseline for conditions like diabetes or cardiovascular disease. Socioeconomic status also matters. Access to resources, healthcare, and opportunities for healthy living often influence risk more than biology alone. Urbanization and modernization can contribute to changing the way that we live, often promoting sedentary behaviors and high diets and processed foods. And finally, a lack of education and awareness can prevent people from recognizing risks or adopting habits a lot earlier in life. It's important to remember that these factors don't act in isolation. Modern research emphasizes absolute risk, the overall risks that come from the combination of genetics, environment, social context, rather than looking at single factors in isolation. That's why public health strategies aim to address multiple factors at once. Unlike genetics or age, these risk factors are ones we can actually change, and that's why they're such a key focus in lifestyle medicine. Poor nutrition, especially diets high in processed foods, sugar, unhealthy fats, directly contributes to obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Physical inactivity compounds that risk, leading to weight gain, insulin resistance, and poor heart health. Inadequate sleep is another important one. Chronic lack of sleep disrupts your hormones, increases your stress, and weakens the body's ability to repair itself. Smoking is a leading cause of preventable death, damaging the lungs, heart, and blood vessels while raising cancer risk. Similarly, excess alcohol intake contributes to liver disease, high blood pressure, and several cancers. But we also need to recognize stress and mental health. Prolonged stress from work, personal life, or other challenges is strongly linked to depression and anxiety. Those conditions often push people toward unhealthy lifestyle choices, like overeating, skipping exercise, or relying on substances to cope. This shows how mental and physical health are deeply connected, and addressing one can improve the risk of the other. What's critical to understand is that these risks don't act alone. Modern guidelines focus on absolute risk, meaning the combined effects of multiple behaviors. For example, when someone who eats poorly, doesn't exercise, and smokes has a much higher risk than each factor alone would suggest. The good news is that even small improvements like quitting smoking, adding in regular walks, or cutting back on alcohol can dramatically reduce overall disease risk. Now that we know the difference between modifiable and unmodifiable risk factors, let me introduce you to Maria. She is a 42-year-old woman who works a desk job and often skips meals, then eats fast food late at night. She rarely exercises, sleeps about 5 to 6 hours a night, and drinks 2 energy drinks daily to stay awake. Recently, she's noticed frequent fatigue, weight gain, and increased blood pressure at her annual checkup. Which of the following is the most significant modifiable risk factor that Maria should address first to reduce her risk of a lifestyle disease? A. Genetic family history of hypertension. B. Her high fast food intake. And C. Her age, being 42 years old. Or D. The fact that she works a desk job. If you guessed B, her poor nutrition habits, you'd be correct. This is because while genetics, age, and job type are unmodifiable, her eating habits, along with sleep and her activity, are modifiable risk factors that she can start improving on to lower her risk. Now that we've looked at how lifestyle diseases develop and their risk factors, let's shift to something more hopeful: prevention and control. The encouraging part is that many lifestyle diseases are largely preventable through simple but consistent habits in daily life. By focusing on things like nutrition, regular physical activity, quality sleep, stress management, avoiding harmful substances, and staying socially connected, we can significantly reduce our risk. These factors don't just prevent disease, they also improve quality of life and resilience, helping people manage conditions they may already have. In the next slides, we'll look more closely at how each of these factors can play a role in protecting long term health. But remember, you don't have to start with an extreme change. It can be something small, focusing on one thing at a time. When we talk about prevention, it's important to remember that health isn't just about what we eat or how much we move. Our mind plays a huge role in it too. Real thoughts and emotions have a very physical impact on the body. For example, anxiety and negative thought patterns can trigger a stress response in the nervous, immune, and endocrine systems. You know those butterflies you get in your tummy when something big is coming? Well, those are a sign from your body about the stress you're experiencing. And over time, this can increase our risk for chronic health problems if we don't keep it under control. On the flip side, when we deal with physical illness or chronic pain, it often changes our emotions. We may feel depressed, frustrated, or even hopeless. That cycle can keep the body under stress. So, takeaway is this: being mindful of our thoughts and trying to stay conscious of the way we think about ourselves and the things we're doing, learning healthy coping strategies, and caring for our mental well being is just as important as eating well or exercising. Prevention starts in the mind as much as it does in the body. One strategy I often recommend for realizing where our mental state may be at is creating a simple timeline of stressful events in your life and comparing it with times when your health problems appeared. What you see in the picture here is an example of the Kawa model. It reminds us that our health is like a river. When obstacles block the flow, therapy can help find ways to keep life moving forward. And these reflections from this picture can be a strong indication of maybe how we feel about our own life circumstances. For many people, there's a strong connection, like chronic pain flare ups during stressful work periods or family times. And this exercise helps to increase our awareness of how our body and our mind are linked. If you look at the example picture here, each part of the river represents different things. We have the rocks, the riverbed, the logs, and even just the shape and the flow of our river. So I want you to take a second and pause the video. Maybe take a few minutes and draw this river for yourself. What does your life look like? What are your obstacles? What are your attributes? What's making your river flow really well? Or what's stopping it from having a good flow? Take a second and jot that down to have an understanding of maybe where your mental state is at. Now that you have an understanding of where your mind is in your lifestyle, let's take a look at the body and how movement plays a role in preventing lifestyle diseases. Our bodies were designed to move. When we sit too much or stay inactive, it throws off our metabolism and puts us at risk for chronic diseases. Exercise doesn't have to be extreme to make a difference. The goal is to build stamina, strength, flexibility, and balance, what we call the 5 S's of fitness. And the great thing is, this can look different for everyone. One key thing to notice is that exercise should be dynamic. Start small and adjust as you get stronger. Walking for 10 minutes a day is a great start, and over time you can add more intensity or variety. What really helps people stick with it is finding purpose and enjoyment in the exercise. You're not going to want to get up and go on a morning 5-mile run if you've never liked running. Maybe start with walking, something that you could enjoy and find happiness in. Or You can include other people in that activity as well. Activities like walking the dog, gardening, going dancing can give exercise meaning, and that makes it a lot easier to stay consistent. So, a few practical tips: set small, realistic goals, track your steps, and mix in a few weight bearing activities like walking or hiking for your bone health. Most importantly, choose activities you actually enjoy. That's what will keep you moving long term. And remember, there's no pill that can replace true exercise. Movement is medicine for the body. The spirit is often overlooked. When we talk about health, it plays a huge role in preventing. Spirit doesn't necessarily mean religion, though faith can be a strong source of strength. It's really about having meaning, purpose, and connection in life. When people feel connected to their values, to their loved ones, or to a larger community, they're more likely to make healthier choices and less likely to fall into harmful habits. Research shows that belonging, volunteering, practicing gratitude, and spiritual or mindfulness practices can reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve resilience. In short, nurturing our spirit or our purpose provides motivation and balance, which helps us sustain the lifestyle changes needed for long term health. So, what practices or connections give you a sense of purpose? As I've mentioned throughout the entire course of this presentation, when it comes to lifestyle diseases, prevention is far more effective than treatment. The good news is that many of the risk factors are modifiable, and we have the power to change them. Prevention starts with maintaining a diet of rich whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, while limiting, not always eliminating, but controlling the amount of processed foods and sugar and healthy fats in our diet. Coupling with regular physical activity, at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week, helps control our weight and improve our cardiovascular health and regulate our blood sugar. Equally as important are good sleep habits and effective stress management, since both directly affect hormone regulation, immune function, and mental health. Avoiding smoking, limiting alcohol intake, and going for regular health screenings like blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose checks allows for early detection and intervention before diseases fully develop. And finally, prevention isn't just physical, it's about the whole person: the mind, the body, and the spirit. Building social connections, practicing gratitude, and finding meaning in daily life all contribute to healthier behaviors and long term wellness. The bottom line is small daily choices build up over time, and prevention today can mean a healthier future tomorrow. Now let's take another look at our friend Maria. Which of the following strategies would be most effective for Maria to reduce her risk for lifestyle diseases? We have focusing on changing her genetic risk factors, improving her diet and increasing her physical activity, accepting her age and family history as unchangeable, continuing her current routine but taking a vitamin supplement. From what we know about prevention, which option would be best? If you chose option B, improving her diet and increasing her physical activity, you'd be correct. While genetics and age are unmodifiable, and it is important to recognize that there are things we cannot change, the best answer would be focusing on modifiable risk factors like nutrition and exercise to help give Maria the most control over reducing her risk for hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and exercise. Simple changes in diet and movement can significantly improve her health. And these don't have to start overnight. She doesn't have to jump into an extreme diet change right away. But recognizing these factors and adjusting to them can lead her on a journey of a healthier life. Now, it can be easy to just say that these are the solutions we need, but knowing and changing habits isn't as easy. There are many barriers that can get in the way of adopting healthier behaviors, and these can be physical, social, or psychological. Understanding these behaviors and these barriers is important because it allows us to develop realistic strategies and supports to help people make lasting changes. In the next slides, we'll explore some common barriers and practical ways to overcome them. These very real barriers can make it difficult to act. Time is a major factor. Long work hours or family responsibilities can leave little room for exercise or meal planning. Environmental factors also matter. Not everyone has access to fresh, healthy foods or safe places to be active. Stress and mental health challenges, such as fatigue, low motivation, or emotional eating, can further prevent positive behavior changes. And social or cultural pressures like family eating habits or societal norms can make it hard to stick with new routines. Recognizing these barriers is the first step in finding ways to overcome them. But once we identify these barriers, we can develop practical strategies to fix them. For time constraints, maybe short, focused workouts or meal prepping can be big in making a difference. Adapting our environment, like choosing nearby stores or using home exercise equipment, also helps to remove or adjust a few obstacles. Maybe stress can be managed for you with mindfulness or a quick deep breathing in the moment. Maybe journaling or social support from family and friends or community groups increases accountability and motivation. And finally, using behavioral techniques such as setting small and achievable goals, tracking progress, and rewarding our accomplishments keeps people engaged and reinforce positive changes. By addressing our behaviors systemically, lifestyle changes can become more sustainable. So focus on the things that you want to change and find ways that you can change them. In conclusion, lifestyle diseases don't happen overnight. And the good news is that many are largely preventable through changes that we can control and adjustments that we can make. Caring for the mind, the body, and the spirit together helps create a balanced approach to long term health. Prevention works best when we address multiple risk factors simultaneously, rather than focusing on just the symptoms of one. While barriers like time and environment and stress exist, practical strategies like simple planning, building social support, and slowly managing our stress can help us overcome them. The most important point is that small and consistent daily habits add up over time. By making continuous choices around nutrition, activity, and sleep, stress, and connections, we can reduce disease risk factors and improve our quality of life. Healthy habits right now can lead to a healthy future. Thank you for listening, and here are my references.